Here we are, about 60 days in now, and if you've been following the channel for some time, you already know that we've been discussing the dip in the real estate market of late, along with the obvious consequence of a dip in our business as real estate photographers. If you haven't yet seen those videos, that's okay. You don't need to understand this one, as it will stand alone. But I definitely encourage you to still go back and view them so you can have a good base of understanding of this conversation. Now, heads up, before we get going, this is going to be a longer video because there's a lot to cover. I do value your time, and I appreciate that you've chosen to spend it with me, so I'll be as succinct as possible. My name's Brian Roberts. Welcome to Loud and Clear. First things first, we need to understand not only the problem we're facing directly, but also indirectly, because that's important as well. So we're going to get into that. The obvious part is that the real estate market is down 30 to 50% in most markets for about the past 6 months or so, year over year, which has obviously led to a decrease in all of our business as real estate photographers as well. But there is a not so obvious problem afoot, and that is the alarmist social media aspect of all this. There are no shortage of influencers across every platform you want to talk about. These are creators who have the thumbnail with the scared face, typically with a headline about how the world's on fire, so you should stock up on rice, right? The problem isn't as much that this isn't true, but rather that their audience believes it. The problem for us is that people who affect the stability of our business are consuming and believing this same alarmist content. The last time the real estate industry had a net negative pattern in the US actually predates real estate photography as a profession in its modern form. This also happens to be long enough back that a whole generation of new would-be first-time buyers were not yet of age or financial sophistication to have understood at the time what was happening. Let me address what happened in 2008 and why that is not happening today. The only similarities to the recession of 2008 and what we see happening right now in the real estate market is that prices at that time had been running up very quickly for several years as well. Back in the year 2000, there was a tech bubble that burst, which I won't go into further. If you want to learn about what that was all about, you can look it up. But what's important for this conversation is it did a bit of damage to real estate, especially high-end real estate that was being consumed by these startup executives. But it rebounded really quickly, and prices started climbing really, really quickly. This obviously strained affordability, like what we see now, but here's the first important difference. There weren't really any guardrails on lending at the time. Back in the early aughts, the lenders got so greedy that they started giving loans to anyone who could fog a mirror because the lenders were errantly thinking the market acceleration was a sure thing going forward. It seems stupid now, but that really was the prevailing wisdom of the day. So, if their less than qualified mirror fogging borrower defaulted on his note, so what? The house is worth 100 grand more than it was 2 years ago when we funded the loan, right? That's what these lenders thought. So, problem number one, the mirror foggers were never qualified to borrow this money. Problem number two, they couldn't afford it either because home values had been outpacing incomes briskly. Lenders needed to get creative to get the mirror foggers into homes. Enter the adjustable rate mortgage, which in itself isn't a bad thing, but in order to leverage the effectiveness of an adjustable rate mortgage, you need to have a bit more sophistication, and the mirror foggers definitely did not. These were crazy programs too. In order to get someone who made, say, $15 an hour into a $400,000 house, they put a teaser rate up for the first few years. So let's say the loan is written as a 6% adjustable 30-year loan. But in order to get a mirror fogger in, their payment absolutely can't be more than, say, $1,800 per month. What the lender would do is write the note as an interest-only loan with a 3-year introductory rate of just 1%. But why would a lender do that? Remember, because the property in the lender's mind will be worth 50% more in a few years, so who cares, right? The unsophisticated mirror fogger, stoked that he got his bougie new house in the second worst neighborhood of the 909, doesn't realize the huge blunder he's made. He hasn't put any money down. And even though he thinks he's cool because the home will keep growing in value, he doesn't understand that his teaser rate of just 1% isn't all he's paying. Remember, the loan was a 6% adjustable rate loan. Well, that interest is still being paid, but it's going on the back end of the loan. His indebtedness on this house is actually growing, and everyone is gambling that the value of the home will outpace his negative amortizing loan. This all came to a head and was really prevalent around the year 2005, and so it's no coincidence that everything unwound 3 years later in 2008. Remember those teaser rates? Well, that's only for a specified period of time, and 3 years, 36 months, that's a nice round number. So what happens when mirror fogger, who makes $15 per hour, answering phone somewhere, has an overnight jump by $800 per month, $1,000 per month on his mortgage? He defaults. Then what happens? The property becomes distressed because remember, he never had any skin in the game anyway. I was close with a couple property investors at the time who were buying these distressed properties off of banks, and it was wild. You couldn't do any diligence, you paid in cash at an auction held in like a public park, and when you walked in for the first time, you discovered the cabinets were gone, right? Copper strip. The stuff actually happened to people I know. So that was the start of the problem, the catalyst, if you will. The broader problem then becomes this. Mortgages are often bought and sold between banks and other institutional investors on what's called the secondary mortgage market. Banks do this to free up capital so they can write and fund more loans. It's normal, and anyone who's had a mortgage probably has received a letter at some point informing you that some other institution now owns your debt, but it will continue to be serviced by whoever, right? Usually whoever originated the loan. So this was happening with these junk loans, but what was happening is the mortgage-backed securities they were getting packaged into started making their way into other sectors of the market too. So you can see where this is going, right? Everything unwound. Responsible people with equity in their homes, due to this glut of distressed properties, they saw their equity disappear. And you know what? They were losing their jobs too. The economy was trashed. And even they were just walking away after they stole the air conditioner. So I say all that to say this. None of that is happening now in 2023. Our economy is fundamentally stable. Our lending is fundamentally responsible. When lenders loan out hundreds of thousands of dollars to someone today, you can be sure that that person not only qualifies to borrow the money, but to get that loan, they need a significant, often six-figure down payment to secure that loan. As soon as they walk through the front door of their new home, they have equity in it. The SEC has also put some guardrails with regard to market volatility, but that's a whole other issue. So if you see an influencer, any influencer, try to liken this real estate dip to what happened in 2008, just because real estate is cyclical, know now that they are either misinformed or just straight up driving you for the clicks. Here's where all this turns into our problem now. The previous videos in this series, some of them revolved around maximizing your invoices by bringing on board other services. Well, this situation is dynamic. And now that we're 60 days into 2023, I don't think that's what you should be focusing on. Let's jump into some numbers in my business so I can show you instead what I think we should be doing. Okay, so here we are in some reports on my website. So you will see that this has 784 total jobs. Now, I've been using this platform for about 2.5 years, and so I shoot about 350 homes per year, so that adds up right there. What I want you to pay attention to, though, is the way that this chart is broken out. So the biggest single part of this chart, 32.78% of this is single-family homes up to 2,800 square feet. So this is almost 35% of my business is only that, right? So that is definitely the core that I want to focus on. Now, this next one here is twilights. Okay, so stills. So if you were to take these and combine them, that's about 50% of my business is just shooting stills, whether it be single family homes or it be single family homes with a twilight. Okay, now we have this next chart here. So this is condo, mobile homes, stills again. Okay, 14%. So we're up to about 65% of my business now. Now, all these other things, these are going to be smaller packages, right? And you can see over here what the color code is. Basic virtual tours. We're doing Matterport. We're doing video. We're doing all that. Okay, now this is over a 2.5-year period, 784 total homes. And here's what I want to impress upon you. A couple things, okay? One is this right here. So the stills only, that has grown in the past 6 months. And so if you were to take a look at this chart 6 months ago, all these other little things right there, those represented a bigger part of this whole chart, right? And so what has happened is you still have agents who are listing homes, but they are not spending as much because they aren't selling as many homes. And so they're thinking, okay, what is the bare amount of marketing that I can get by with paying for to list this home for sale? Now, this is kind of contrary to what I have said before about getting those secondary services on board, but you know, things change. It's dynamic, right? Now I think you ought to absolutely focus on stills production. So as we've seen in my business anyway, focusing on those secondary services, it's just not gonna work. There are 3 things though that will work. Firstly, you need to raise your prices today if you haven't already. This has always been a scary proposition, I know, but let me help you out here. Is anyone watching this video spending less on their real estate photography business today than they were a couple years ago? Is anyone spending less on fuel, gear, software, etc. today than they were a couple years ago? No, of course not. Everything's more expensive now, right? But watch this. Are any of your clients making more now to sell a home than they were a couple years ago? The answer in most markets is yes, absolutely. Since before the lockdown, prices in most areas have risen at least 20%. In many areas, like the one I live in, much more. Real estate sales commissions, which are always based on sales percentages, most of the time anyway, have risen alongside that. So, are you charging at least 20% more today than you were a couple years ago? Raise your rates. You need to do that to stay in business. That brings us to the second thing. If you're going to raise your rates, you should also bring more value. We talk a lot on this channel about how to differentiate yourself from your competition. This is no different, but what you're going to do is lessen the blow of a rate hike by making your services more valuable to your clients. Better yet, this is going to be something that is almost 100% passive to you. You are going to, while you're out shooting every day, take a few moments between shoots to photograph the community that you're in. So if there is a city hall, a train station, a river walk, a downtown area, a popular restaurant, a good school, things like that, you're going to go out and shoot. Then what you're going to do is make a Dropbox folder with all of these images in it, categorized, of course, to include images from with every shoot you deliver. You will very soon have a library of high quality, already edited images from which to include appropriate ones when you photograph a home. And the third thing that you need for your 2023 real estate photography roadmap is obviously more clients. If everyone's business is down, which it is, you'll need more clients than last year to make a similar amount. Lots of ways to do this, but I have my favorite, and it's been a super effective one for me, the sales meeting pitch. With these techniques, your real estate photography business will not only survive 2023, but will thrive within it. If you'd like to see how I gain clients at a sales presentation, there is a link right there. And I'll see you again soon. Peace.